It was the only parasol in the whole of the island, so we heard. We didn't ask after all the black umbrellas we saw, let alone the question, what was the difference between these black umbrellas and the parasol? And not because we cared if we looked dumb, but because if you went too far with a question like that one, it could turn a rare thing into a commonplace thing. We loved that word. Parasol. And we weren't about to lose it just because of some dumbass question. Also, we knew whoever asked that question would get a hiding, and serve them bloody right, too. They didn't have any kids. Or if they did, they were grown up and living somewhere else, maybe in America, or Australia, or Great Britain. They had names. She was Grace, and black like us. He was Tom Christian Watts, and white as the whites of your eyes, only sicker. There are some English names on the headstones in the church graveyard. The doctor on the other side of the island had a full Anglo-Saxon name, even though he was black like the rest of us. So although we knew him as Popeye, we used to say Mr. Watts, because it was the only name like it left in our district. They lived alone in the minister's old house. You couldn't see it from the road. It used to be surrounded by grass, according to my mum, but after the minister died, the authorities forgot about the mission, and the lawnmower rusted. Soon the bush grew up around the house, and by the time I was born, Mr. and Mrs. Popeye had sunk out of view of the world. The only times we saw them was when Popeye, looking like a tired old nag circling the well, pulled his wife along in the trolley. The trolley had bamboo rails. Mrs. Popeye rested her hands on these. To be a show-off, you need an audience. But Mrs. Popeye didn't pay us any attention. We weren't worthy of that. It was as if we didn't exist. Not that we cared. Mr. Watts interested us more. Because Popeye was the only white for miles around, little kids stared at him until their ice blocks melted over their black hands. Older kids sucked in their breath and knocked on his door to ask to do their school project on him. When the door opened, some just froze and stared. I knew an older girl who was invited in. Not everyone was. She said there were books everywhere. She asked him to talk about his life. She sat in a chair next to a glass of water he had poured for her, pencil in hand, notebook open. He said, "My dear, there has been a great deal of it. I expect more of the same." She wrote this down. She showed her teacher, who praised her initiative. She even brought it over to our house to show me and my mum, which is how I know about it. It wasn't just for the fact he was the last white man that made Popeye what he was to us, a source of mystery mainly, but also confirmation of something else we held to be true. We had grown up believing white to be the color of all the important things, like ice cream, aspirin, ribbon, the moon, the stars. White stars and a full moon were more important when my grandfather grew up than they are now that we have generators. When our ancestors saw the first white, they thought they were looking at ghosts, or maybe some people who had just fallen into bad luck. Dogs sat on their tails and opened their jaws to await the spectacle. The dogs thought they were in for a treat. Maybe these white people could jump backwards or somersault over trees. Maybe they had some spare food. Dogs always hope for that. The first white my grandfather saw was a shipwrecked yachtsman who asked him for a compass. My grandfather didn't know what a compass was, so he knew he didn't have one. I picture him clasping his hands at his back and smiling. He wouldn't want to appear dumb. The white man asked for a map. My grandfather didn't know what he was asking for, and so pointed down at the man's cut feet. My grandfather wondered how the sharks had missed that bait. The white man asked...